Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Deep Podcast. Exciting morning this morning. We have Dr. John Fischer, who's a personal mentor of mine. More importantly, here at Penn, he's the director of our research program within the Division of Plastic Surgery. He's a full professor of surgery here as well. And, I don't want to jump the gun a little bit, but a lot of this discussion today is going to be circled around sort of promotion and how to navigate it in pearls. And to put kind of to add a little bit more to that, he's perhaps the earliest at Penn Medicine to be promoted to full professor, and he's perhaps the earliest to be a member of perhaps the most prestigious surgical society, the ASA, which is, I know from having done general surgery, a huge, huge honor. John Cameron used to talk about it all the time. So it's great to have you here today. One of the first things that I was sort of interested in is your exposure to medicine and surgery and what kind of got you excited very early in your career.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This is awesome. It's cool being here. So I had some early exposure, in fact, to medicine. My mom actually is a nurse. She teaches nursing in Syracuse at a community hospital. And actually, my dad, who passed away about 20 years ago, was a plastic surgeon, actually a community plastic surgeon. So some early exposure to the field of medicine, I think, really got me interested and passionate about taking care of patients and helping others. And so that was a big part of growing up. And certainly, I saw the benefits of being a plastic surgeon, as a young child and, as a teenager, and kind of seeing the impact that you can have, not just on your patients, but I think the community as a whole. And so I think that early exposure, I think, planted a seed in my mind to want to go into the field and help others and use surgical techniques to positively impact quality of life for patients.
What kind of practice did your dad have?
Yeah, so he was. He trained at NYU. He was CAQ'd in hand, although he didn't do a fellowship, and had a very busy reconstructive practice and a hand practice. And he did basically everything. Did some microsurgery, did some hand surgery, did a lot of skin cancer surgery, a lot of breast reconstruction, some aesthetic surgery, but very busy practice in the community in Syracuse. And
did you get to observe any of it?
I did.
Probably very young. Huh?
Yeah. He passed away when I was actually 18, freshman in college at Hamilton. I spent time in his office, when I was in high school, and really got to see just the way he interacted with patients and just the profound impact that, being a surgeon can have, on your patients and the community as a whole. And so, it was cool to see that. I don't think I ever actually went and scrubbed with him. I don't think he let me, but got to see him in action, which was really cool. And I definitely kind of hold on to those memories. Actually, it's funny, no one really knows this, but I have a number of his old scrub caps. I got like 20 of them.
Oh my God. Oh, I knew that.
Yeah, and so maybe you knew that. That's cool. Yeah, so I've got a couple.
The blue one?
Yeah, they're like, people are like, where'd you get that from? I'm like, yeah, I just found it. It's got a weird kind of, like a very abstract design on it. Yeah, and they look old. They're very old, but they're super comfortable. I don't think they make scrub caps like that anymore. They're probably.
Did that reflect his personality too?
I don't know. Yeah, maybe. I think
it's like a good luck charm.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, and like it kind of. Yeah, kind of gives me a good vibe when I put it on. I got a few of them, and it's cool to have those.
Yeah. Is your mom currently still practicing?
Yeah, so she teaches nursing at Krause in Syracuse, which is one of the bigger private hospitals in the area. She's part-time, but I think she likes doing it, staying busy, and so it's cool.
So what would you say has been the greatest influence on your medical career?
Yeah, I mean, certainly kind of, having two parents that are in the healthcare field, I think had a significant influence on me. But I guess when I think of impact, like kind of what has enabled me to, I think in some ways kind of, be as successful as I have been and to, I think, achieve the things that I've kind of set my mind to and want to accomplish is probably my wife, Becky, who's also a physician. So Becky and I couples matched to Philadelphia. So she trained at CHOP and did 3 years in pediatrics at CHOP, and I did 6 years here at Penn. And I think that, she's just been kind of the bedrock for everything that I've done and just had a huge positive impact, just in a supportive way, just for everything that I've kind of, wanted to push for and do, and the sacrifices that, kind of we have made. I think she's just been super, super important. And that impact, I think, has been immeasurable. So.
we'll have to make sure she listens to this.
Yeah.
Quickly.
Absolutely.
I met her at the holiday party a year or two ago.
Yeah.
I know she's wonderful, and I think it shows you. I feel the same way about my wife, like how important it is to have that partner and to be able to do what you want to do and not feel the pressure, but also have the support and excitement when things go well for you.
Totally. And Brittany obviously is in the healthcare field too. And so I think that, Becky as a physician, I think just has a unique way of looking at things and understanding and being supportive, even in across the board, like just understanding and supportive. And I think that she really gets it. And I think that I couldn't be more fortunate to have married her and
that's awesome.
Share a life with her. So
Yeah. So you did residency here, you came here, and then you decided to stay.
Yeah.
What made you want to stay around here?
Yeah, I mean, when I came here, I really thought that I was going to probably go back to Syracuse and be a private plastic surgeon. That's kind of what I knew. That's kind of what I thought I wanted to do. And obviously we have a deep connection to upstate New York. We have family that's still there. Becky, in fact, actually grew up outside of Albany. And so we kind of naturally thought that, kind of returning back home to New York and to upstate New York was probably the most likely path that we would take. But a lot of, I think, really special things happened, over the course of being in Philadelphia, working at Penn and working at CHOP. I think that, just to kind of list a few of them is very special people that, you kind of got to meet and interact with. I think understanding just how unique a place Penn is and the opportunities that it can afford you. And I think that, kind of falling in love with a place, right? Like kind of being in Philadelphia has been super, super fun. Like it's just a really cool city, just has this kind of underdog mentality, which I really kind of relate to in some ways. And I think it's just been fun being here. And so ultimately when, Dr. Chialetti, began to talk to me about, opportunities to stay, I couldn't, first of all, believe it, but then also just felt like it was an opportunity of a lifetime and kind of wouldn't pass something like that up. And Becky really, enjoyed, the practice that she was in. She was in private practice at the time, and she still has the same role. And, it was kind of an easy decision. So, yeah.
Looking back, did you ever foresee yourself living in Philadelphia for this long?
Yeah, so we moved in 2009, and so it's kind of going on 16 years, I guess. And I didn't think so, but it's been great. It's been an amazing and fun and exciting run. But yeah, no, it's great. It's cool.
What's kind of changed around here since you've been here, like the division and the institution?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good question. I mean, there's a lot of things that change. I think, good places change, right? Even if you're great or exceptional, which of course, Penn is and this group is, I mean, all really good things change and evolve and adapt to the times and get better and grow. And I think that all those things have happened, right? Like there's multiple new buildings around us, Penn Tower, where I used to spend a ton of time, is gone. And we're, kind of right next to the new hospital, which kind of was erected in its place. PCAM was just being built. This big cell tower was under construction during residency. So a lot of things have changed. A lot of the people are still here. Some people have left. A lot of new people have come, and it's been, they've been great additions to the program. Whether it's, nursing staff, faculty, just the residency program's gotten bigger. So I think that a lot of amazing things have happened here in 16 years, and it's been fun to watch. It's been fun to be a part of that growth, that kind of differentiation, and just kind of growing with something very special. It's been really cool.
Mm-hmm. One of the things I'm interested in as an intern and still trying to find my path is, and this is a common theme on this podcast, is they're all plastic surgeons, but they all have such different careers. Even your dad did a lot of hand stuff. You do a lot of ab wall hernia repair stuff. Did you stumble upon that? How early in your career did you kind of know what you wanted to do? Is it just falls that way, or opportunity, or?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a really interesting question. It's kind of like, where do you kind of direct your energy, and kind of where do you kind of, grow your practice and kind of, develop a reputation? It's really interesting. Definitely known for abdominal wall reconstruction. I know both I do a lot more than that and do a lot of other things that I really, really enjoy clinically. I will say there's one person that is singularly responsible for my personal interests and my career interests in abdominal wall wall reconstruction. And that person is Steve Kovac. And Steve just had this way of taking care of these patients, teaching me and others about how to approach this problem. And I really thought that he inspired me just by kind of instilling into me this idea that like we should know more about this problem. We should know more about how to treat it. I think I really like that, and I like the operations. I like taking apart the abdominal wall, and I like the idea of really conferring a functional benefit to patients who have abdominal wall defects. And Steve, I think, is the singular reason, why I pursued an MPH to kind of really study the epidemiology of this problem, and really I think kind of launched a career and focused on abdominal wall reconstruction. So Steve is probably the culprit of all that.
Steve, if you're listening.
Steve, if you're listening.
Becky at first.
No.
Ab wall is one of those things where you, from a global view, you think it's basic, but when I saw you teach it at the Penn Flap course, I realized how intricate it is and how detailed you can make it if you really devote your energy to it. There's so much to it. And one thing that I admire so much about you, which is why I send my patients who have bad complications to you, is really just how you approach it. And it is you can make it as easy as you want or as complicated, but those patients really are suffering, and so if you can treat them, it's really such a rewarding field.
Yeah, I would agree. I think it really is special to take care of those patients because it's very much a fixable problem, and patients really do suffer from it. And I think that this idea that like you can make it as detailed or complicated as you want to, or kind of studied as much as you want, that really applies to anything in our field. And so I think that kind of one of the things that I've kind of tried to wrap my arms around is really trying to intensively study the problem, look at outcomes, look at quality of life, do research on this, understand why it happens. And I think just kind of wrapping your arms around something and really kind of diving deep into what you're passionate about and what you're interested in, independent of what it is, I think really helps you, I think, kind of understand and become an expert in something.
Yeah. Another thing that I admire a lot about you is that you don't self-advertise as much as we're used to in today's kind of medical world, and so now's our opportunity for Hank and I to kind of advertise on your behalf. But you have nearly 300 or 300 plus publications. You run a very impressive research enterprise here at Penn. I think part of that, I'm kind of speaking on my behalf, is one thing that I've done recently is started an MPH program, and part of that is because of your experience with your MPH program, and you did it through Bloomberg. So if you can tell us a little bit about why you decided to do the MPH, when did you start it, and what kind of benefit did it have on your career?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's probably a number of reasons, not in any particular order. I think that Steve had some influence. I think Steve kind of, advising me and telling me just how common the problem of abdominal hernia is and how we don't know enough about it, I think kind of planted a seed. Also kind of one of my best friends in medicine is Jonas Nelson, who of course very well. Jonas is on the faculty at MSK, an incredible surgeon, and he and I spent a lot of time together clinically and traveling and doing research together. And I think Jonas really was probably the true reason why I ultimately did the MPH. Jonas spoke so highly of Johns Hopkins and the Bloomberg School, and I think in the end, I think that the reason why I actually did it is because of Joe. Joe Cerletti. Joe's just incredibly supportive, and to kind of let a chief resident who's going to be hired, actually start the MPH, during training and then finish it during my first year as a faculty member. I think it's kind of unique, and I really greatly appreciate that Joe kind of let me do that. And then I think that the reason is to kind of learn about how to I think organize your thoughts about healthcare delivery, kind of learn to problem solve, learn to do, I think, rigorous scientific inquiry, and I think just get a broader perspective on healthcare. And really, it did all that, and I think it really helped me a great deal. I think it helped me in terms of kind of formalizing my credentials, as a clinical researcher. I think it kind of opened my mind to different ways of thinking about problems, and I think it really helped help our group and our team get funding and kind of really kind of pursue some bigger picture projects that I'm not sure I would have otherwise been able to wrap my head around had I not, got the MPH. And so, I think that, it was Steve, it was tremendously Jonas, it was Joe's support, it was the place and the environment, right? An environment where you feel incredibly supportive to pursue your goals, even if that path might be a little bit different and not typical. And so that's just such a unique thing. And I think that it's those types of things in the end, when you kind of look back at your career, that are kind of career defining things, where someone, kind of understands your circumstances, understands kind of, truly your goals, and really wants to support you. And I think that is what kind of keeps you coming back.
Totally agree.
And I can speak on that. We're talking about that. That's kind of my relationship with you in some ways, because I was here before starting medical school, volunteering in your research program and department, and I saw behind the scenes how things work here, the culture, how great everybody is, how motivated you are as a leader in research. And obviously I came back and did a research fellowship here, took a chance on me between my third and fourth year, and obviously like whatever I accomplish from here on out, I'll always attribute to you. So,
yeah, well, we're lucky to have you as a resident now, of course, which is an amazing thing. And
No, I think it's important. You witness it firsthand. You witness the support.
Yeah.
Like, I was a resident here. I saw it. I saw how the faculty were supported.
And it keeps you wanting to come back, as you were saying.
Yeah. You kind of alluded to this, but you're NIH R01 funded. I know you're applying. We've talked about this before in the past. Do you think that your MPH and that advanced research training had some role in that?
Yeah, I'll put in a plug for the Bloomberg School. I think absolutely. I think that, and I think it's like it's the letters after the name. I think that it reflects very well. When someone has taken that extra time to pursue formalized educational training to study, consequential health problems like breast cancer or abdominal hernia, or really anything, in our specialty. I think that has a lot of weight when someone looks, at you as an investigator and says, is this person serious about what they're doing? Is this person likely to, discover things that will have impact on healthcare? And I think that it absolutely did. And so, I think it played an important role. The R01 is an interesting story too. Took a long time to do, and I think that if the pandemic, hadn't happened, I might not have, had the window or time to really direct the efforts towards it.
We've heard that before.
which is really, really interesting to say. If we could rewind and say, would you rather have the R01 or the pandemic? I'd say, no pandemic, and I'll live without the R01. But I think that circumstances happened, and I think that, I had some time to really organize my thoughts and sit down and spend some time writing. And of course, with the support of the team that we have here, and most notably, of course, Robin, kind of keeping me on task. We got something, we got a shot on goal, right? And that's the only way to score, is if you take a shot. And I think that sometimes it's scary, taking a shot, because, you spend so much time, and I think you ask others to spend so much time on something that I think you can oftentimes become afraid that if the result isn't what you hope for, that, you're a failure. And I think that, it's just, to succeed, you have to fail. I think you have to learn. And so, we submitted the R01, I think, 3 times. We might have even submitted a 4th time when they kind of like tapped out and just gave it to us for the previous submission. We had said, we're not giving up. And so I think that persistence, in your pursuit of funding or research or whatever your career goals are, I think are super important. And it worked out. It was cool. It was a big deal. And I know it was something that I think Joe really wanted for our group. And I know that it's something that I thought, I wanted, because, I got the training and I felt like I was the right person to be able to do something like that. And it was fun to get it. And it was very special. Actually, the program officer, this is all public knowledge, Dana Anderson, who is actually a surgeon. He's a retired surgeon. I think he spent some time at Hopkins and I think perhaps actually at Yale. Super amazing guy. And when I got his email, I remember exactly where I was. I think it was like November of 2021 over at the Surgery Center at Presby. And the email came through. He's like, not official, but you're getting your R01. And I just was it was just so cool, and it was probably one of the most exciting things, kind of academically or professionally that's ever happened to me, even beyond, promotion or getting hired. It was just so much work, and I knew not just how much I put towards it, but like how much the team put towards it, and it was really, really special, and I was super, super excited. And we kind of just wrapped up the third year. We've had a number of kind of research fellows kind of participate in this. It's been super, super cool, and it's been, I think a learning experience, right? It's like getting it was great, and then, the work was tremendous, and obviously we've learned a lot and grown in trying to, get the job done. It's been fun.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Well, it also shows you how you can use that bad time of the pandemic to learn how to be productive in a different way. The OR shut down, your cases are getting canceled, but you can have this extra time, and you can either use it or you don't use it, and clearly you're one of the people who used it.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point too, is like, as I kind of reflect back, I think that, that it's not the right way to describe it, but you have to be opportunistic, right? I think that you've got to be willing to adapt when different circumstances arise, and that can happen in any facet of your life or circumstances or career. And I think that those that are ready to adapt, I think, are oftentimes those that are able to take most advantage of opportunities, and so I think that it was just a situation where we really put forth some effort at the right time, and I think we got lucky, and the rest is kind of history now.
Yeah. He's talking, kind of piggybacking off of the R01. You're the director of the research program here. What do you see as kind of the goals for the future of that program, and what do you think are the most exciting topics now in research for somebody to study?
Yeah. Oh man. I mean, it's such a fun job, and I think that Joe kind of had told me when I was a chief resident that I was going to kind of step into and try to fill Lisa Wu's shoes, who's of course going to be a visiting professor here, for the Robert H. Ivy lecture in just a month or so. It was very humbling, and I was a little bit nervous to kind of step into her shoes, because she did such an incredible job in that role, and I think really, she laid the foundation, and I just kind of got to build a little bit on top of it. And it's been fun. I think that the research program is a huge enterprise inside of our group. It's grown and it's expanded. We've had anywhere between, 1 and up to 4 or 5 research fellows. We, of course, have Robin Broach, who's our research manager. I mean, I think our goals, are to be the world's leader in clinical outcomes research in the field of plastic surgery. And I think that, we really try to intentionally advance the way we take care of patients through, I think, very, very purposeful clinical research, understanding, what works, in what patients, what techniques are best, understanding outcomes, quality of life, prediction, lots of different approaches that we're kind of thinking about and using. And I think it's been very fun to kind of iterate on previous work, kind of, building on, collaborations with other groups. And I think one of the themes of what I feel like I've tried to do, as one of the leaders inside the research program, is to, I think, cultivate interdisciplinary collaboration. So kind of going outside of our group, kind of getting others involved that have different perspectives on problems. Yeah. And I think that, introducing new methodologies to study problems, getting different perspectives, new techniques, I think it really has enhanced the quality of the research and the impact of the research that we're kind of doing here at Penn. So,
yeah. So we talked about persistence, being opportunistic. What are some other things as other pieces of advice or characteristics you relay onto an intern or a resident to give them some advice on, find their way in plastic surgery? Yeah,
I mean, it's a really good question, and I think you gotta know where you're standing, kind of know exactly where you are, right? Yeah. So if you're an intern, I think that you gotta focus on becoming a great doctor, right? Yeah. Learning the important things that will be the foundation for what will ultimately be a clinical practice that you'll have. And so I think that you gotta know right where you're standing, but I think pay close attention to where you want to go, right? And kind of always be looking in a direction where you kind of want to go and what you want to do. And that kind of angle, that direction may change, but I think that, kind of being intentional and purposeful with kind of your decisions, especially early on, kind of, what you want to do, how you want to spend your time. But I think most importantly for an intern, I would say have fun, like residency is such a fun time and it goes so quick. Probably, 6 of the best years of my life were spent as a resident. Just so fun. You're a young adult, you've got lots of energy, you can do just about anything. I think my advice would be have fun. On a more professional note, I think just about like kind of getting work and advancing your career. I think that cultivate relationships with people. I think read and kind of know kind of the topics that you're interested in is super, super important. And I think that small steps can sometimes lead to massive steps in the future, or very, very large distances traveled. And so take lots of small steps. And I think kind of do it carefully, do it thoughtfully, and I think do it with the right people next to you. And I think that you can really go anywhere you want.
Yeah, I think being a good doctor and having fun are great words of advice for interns.
I think so, yeah.
Because it's such like an exciting time, but then there's a lot of pressure. But you have to remind yourself, like, number one, you're just learning how to be a doctor.
Totally.
But you should definitely have fun. I mean, it zips by.
Yeah.
And you have a little bit of responsibility, but not as much as an attending.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
I would also say too, one more thing is that accept the fact that you're going to make mistakes. Like I made lots of mistakes as a resident. I make mistakes every day as an attending and in other facets of my life. I think embrace the idea that you're going to make mistakes, in your professional career. And I think that if you're intentional about kind of always trying to do better and improve and get feedback, I think that that's a good characteristic to have. So try to be a good doctor, have fun, and I think be intentional about learning from mistakes and opportunities. I think is probably the most important thing I would say.
Yeah.
Now we're getting into the most exciting part of this podcast.
Yeah, sweet.
Which is why we both wanted to have you here, is the whole talk about promotion.
Okay.
Not to talk about age. We're not mentioning age, but I'll say under 40, you were promoted to full professor, which I think is a tremendous, tremendous feat, especially at an institution like Penn Medicine that is historically considered one of the most prestigious institutions and the oldest plastic surgery division and training program. So what do you think you can share with others about, because you're the type of person, and I can share this because you're my mentor, I consider you a friend, you don't go into something with like, you do your job and the reward comes, which I think is great about Penn Medicine, is that you're rewarded based off of the merit. And so talk a little bit about promotion and how you did it, and any words of advice for others.
Lots of things I can tell you about that. So just to be totally transparent. So yeah, I was promoted at 39, but barely. I turned 40 like a couple months later. And just to give you perspective, like I didn't take any time.
I didn't want to say your age.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. I'm 41 now. I mean, no time between high school and college, no time between college and med school, no time between med school and residency, and straight into attending. So it was all very compact. And so, I mean, there's a trade-off there, right? I could have taken time off and done something different. And so, I mean, as cool as it is, I mean, maybe I'm lacking in other experiences or opportunities, but I really appreciate that you kind of acknowledge that. It was fun, worked very hard. Promotion is very doable here, but it is, as you said, the standard is very high for promotion. What is my advice? I probably can't get it all out, but I think that I'll kind of throw some concepts up on the wall. So I think the first and probably the most important is being organized, right? And so, organizational efficiency is so important when you're a busy person and you have lots of goals. And so obviously you have to prioritize kind of what's most important professionally, and I think you have to intentionally execute, right? You have to kind of make sure the things that you want to do are happening in the time frame you want, and if they're not, obviously course correct. And so you have to have a plan, and I think that mapping that out and being intentional with how you spend your time and being organized about kind of what you're doing, I think you have to become an expert in something. And so, you have to differentiate yourself, in some way in terms of what you're doing. And so I think that your scholarly work has to be significant. And so, scholarly kind of falls into lots of different buckets. And so those pursuits, I think, can be, research, they can be community-based, they can be clinical. And I think that you have to demonstrate, when you're going up for promotion, particularly on the track that you and I are on, which is a tenure type of track, a clinical tenure type of track, you have to show that you're accelerating, right? You're kind of directionally moving, and you're moving faster over time. And kind of what that means to me is that, like, if you compare year over year, you're kind of growing as a person and as a professional and as an academic scholar. And I think that that's reflected in lots of things, right? It's reflected in the talks you're giving, the work you're putting out, the publications, the collaborations you're doing, the grants, your clinical reputation. And so all those things are important. So I think that, kind of to get promoted, you have to become an expert. You have to demonstrate, truly sustained, meaningful, academic impact and scholarly pursuit. And I think that, I think I was able to do that mainly because I was very meticulous and organized about kind of how I kind of aligned my, academic and rather kind of my research, kind of arm of what I was doing with my clinical work. And so I think that in some instances it can be very challenging when you're a true basic scientist, right? Because that lab work, it takes time to, do the science and to publish, but that work obviously can change fields. And then you're kind of doing clinical work maybe, and it may not be perfectly connected. Whereas I think the closer you get in terms of your research, your research, the closer it kind of moves towards your clinical work, they can almost be wrapped together in a way. And so I feel very fortunate that like a lot of the research that I've been doing and have done is very much intertwined with my clinical activity. And so the ability for those to kind of grow together at almost the same rate, I think, has allowed a lot of cool and special things to happen. And so I think that if you can purposefully align your clinical work with your research activities, I think that can be very synergistic in terms of, I guess, the impact of what's coming out, the volume of what's coming out, and I think that can be very doable. I think also I'd be remiss if I didn't say, you have to find the right mentors, get the right advice, and it really shouldn't just be one mentor. I think it can be lots of different mentors, and you can have different mentors for different reasons, and this is a great place to kind of have lots of different mentors. You can, I think, rely on many different people to help you kind of understand and navigate your professional, growth and career here at Penn. And they don't have to be in surgery; they can be well outside surgery. And so, lots of opportunities here to do that. So,
yeah, I think. And then the other thing I want to share with the audience is like when you're talking, it's hard for me to wrap my head around how busy your clinical practice is too, because you're one of the busiest surgeons in the division, but also in the department. So it shows how you really have to be organized about keeping it all together.
And you have to be efficient. And so it means you're doing it well and the volume is there. It's great. It's incredible.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that you say that. Yeah, you can definitely be busy, but it's hard to be efficient. And I think that like one of the challenges that you realize is there's only so many hours in a day. There's only so many days in a week, and kind of you only have so many years, on this earth. And so I think obviously we want to do things besides our professional activities. We want to spend time with our family and friends and do things that are meaningful outside of work. But I think that for me, what I've realized is like, if I can safely and effectively do more or get the job done in a very efficient way, I think that it allows me to spend other time doing other things that are important, whether that's time with the family, travel, research. Yep. I think that being efficient with your clinical practice and doing it safely, effectively, and efficiently, I think really is a lesson that I've kind of learned over time and really tried to work towards.
Yeah. Actually, it's funny because the same things that you've kind of taught me as being my mentor are the same things Sunil Singhal has told me and Di Matteo, and that your mentors don't have to be surgical, number one. And then number two, this theme of research and in promotion and almost choosing a common theme and, a story. You've mentioned that to me. Dr. Singhal has mentioned that as well. Can you mention that a little bit to the audience?
Yeah.
This like building a story and a theme. Of course, you don't do your research to do the story. You do the research because you're interested in it.
Yeah.
But anyways.
Yeah. I mean, that's great advice. And Dr. Singhal and Dr. Di Matteo are two, I would say, mentors of mine, and obviously two tremendous leaders within the health system and the Department of Surgery. They've done incredible things. I think that those pieces of advice are exactly right. I think in the end, when it's time to put together the information about you to kind kind of position yourself for promotion. I think it is about telling a story. It's about connecting the dots. It's about, painting a picture for the individuals that are going to objectively assess whether this person is qualified for promotion. And I think that, it has to reflect that the dots are connected, or that there is a directional, kind of trend in where this person is going in their career. And they want that to be, I think, focused, and they want that to be upward, right? It has to kind of all fit together in a way. And so it doesn't mean you can't explore and do research projects or have a broad clinical practice, but I think it does mean to me that there should be, some alignment with that work across multiple different, phases of what you're working on. Like there needs to be some degree of some focus, yeah. Right? And especially if those dots are all connected, where you're lecturing on this topic, and you're publishing on this topic, and you're on this editorial board, and you've submitted this grant, and there's a little bit of a connection, and people recognize you in your field, and your peers recognize you as someone who's moving the needle kind of in that area, kind of, and those things are noted, that research, those talks, and that work. I think that's really the package. And it's almost like, when it all comes together, it's hard to put into words exactly what it is, but you know it when you see it. Like, you can kind of see it, like it kind of almost kind of comes off the page at you. This person, is an expert in this topic, and this person, is meritorious for, kind of, a promotion. And I think that's kind of cool, because it's a puzzle sometimes. And I think that, really the job of the person getting promoted is to kind of put that story together, because there is a story, and I think a lot has to do with kind of how you connect the dots.
Yeah. It almost reminds me of like data for a study. Like, you can have negative data or positive data, but it's all how you kind of put the story together.
Totally.
And you can write a paper out of any data, really.
Yeah. Yes.
But and you're somebody who, looking back, when I think about all the things you've done, starting the MPH as a chief resident into your being an attending, R01, busy clinical practice, it seems like you've done all the right things. But from your standpoint, looking back, is there anything you'd say, oh, I wish I had done this, or I wish I started earlier doing this?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not big on regrets, personally. I think that, I try to make the best decision I can where I'm standing, where I am at that time. But I think that, the thing to say, I think, is everything has a trade-off. I think, and you can't go through life without recognizing that every decision has an upside and a downside. And so each of the decisions we make has some potentially adverse or negative consequence. And I think that, all the things you've listed have been tremendous sacrifices of my time and my family's time. And so I think that, while I've tried to get better at kind of being present, being around, being at home, and kind of cultivating things outside of work that, I really love to do. I think that's probably the one thing that, has potentially suffered a little bit from being so, I think, focused on professional work and clinical, care and research. But I think that, as I reflect back, I feel like I've done a pretty good job, my roles as a husband and, a father and, friend. But I think that the upsides of what we've done, I think, as a group and the position I've been in, I think that they well justified. It's been very fun. I think it's been a huge positive impact for the patients and for our group. And so, yeah, I think it's a constant battle to be better, I think, and I think that, just being aware of it and acknowledging it, I think, and trying to balance it is all you can do, I think.
Mm-hmm. When talking about like life and work and balance, you have 3 beautiful kids, 1 newborn.
Yep.
Kind of newborn.
He's 8 months. Little Jack. Yeah.
So how do you do, like, mentally? How, like, going into a busy clinical week? How do you kind of balance work and life and your personal life and Becky and your family and things like that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that...
Is it like when you go home, there's, you close the computer, you're with your family, you guys have dinner together?
I wish that happened. It depends on the day, to be totally honest with you. Some days I get home a little bit earlier, some days it's a little bit later, and, obviously, the time depends upon where everyone's at home. I think that, trying to spend, kind of family time on the weekends is super important. Obviously, the weekdays, school nights, got two kids, one that's in 7th grade and one that's in 2nd grade. And we've got the 8-month-old. So life is busy at home. But I think that, Becky and I just try to work as hard as we can as a team to kind of just keep chugging along. And it's been good. I mean, it's a busy week is challenging because it's tiring, and obviously, kind of when you walk through that door, you kind of you got to change hats, right? And I think that being physically and emotionally tired from a busy day at work is tough, and I think that you have to acknowledge that, be aware of it, try to balance it. I think try to minimize it, and I think being consistent is also super important. So I think over time I've tried to kind of even out that kind of extreme level of work. Every once in a while it happens. I try to avoid it if I can, because I think that it does impact just your energy and how you can interact and wear your other hats when you're home or outside of work. And so that's what I would say. But being organized and kind of obviously working with your partner, and in my case Becky, kind of just to kind of keep everything moving along and keep everybody happy and healthy and doing okay is what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
Awesome. And thank you, Dr. Fischer, again for being here. This was so valuable. I think I learned a lot. I think our audience is going to love it as well. We have a few more questions.
Yeah, I love it.
Quick shooters.
Some quick ones.
Oh boy. Okay.
Yeah. So, what's your go-to music in the OR?
Ooh, that's a great question.
Yeah, I can't remember.
Yeah, I guess I don't really have go-to music. If you've been with me in the OR, I'm kind of running around a little bit, kind of high intensity. Kind of moving a lot to different places and kind of taking care of patients. I would say right now, probably like Zach Bryan. Probably right now is going in the OR.
That's a great one.
I think that's probably it. But you know what? I honestly don't mind anything if it's loud enough. Absolutely. So I don't mind. I usually let the circulating nurse navigate. I'm pretty cool about it. I'm very flexible. I'm not like a no OR music kind of surgeon. I'm very much like totally fine with whatever. Frankly, I usually don't even hear it even if it's loud. 'Cause, you're just in the zone. But yeah.
Cool.
What's your favorite thing about Philly?
Probably a number of things, and I probably already mentioned it. There's like an underdog mentality in this kind of part of the country. I really like that. I also love the weather here too. It just seems to be this perfect balance. The summer I'd say is a little bit hot for my taste, but I think that these kind of more milder winters, beautiful falls. This is like right now is like my favorite time of the year. I just love the fall. Love it when it's in the 60s or 70s during the day and kind of cools off a lot at night. Love the sports teams. Obviously, the food scene here is great. The art scene is amazing. It's a great place to live. I mean, being able to live, 15 miles from where I work and have a 25-minute commute in, but feel like you're not, in a major metropolitan area is really, really unique, I think, and cool. So I think all those things are great. Yeah.
Sounds like you're a lifer.
I think so. Yeah. I mean, it's been great. It's continues to be fun, and this is such a good idea to do this podcast. You could probably I'm like really smiling. It's like this was fun. This was really fun. Yeah. And
the best part about it is that I broke in my mug.
Yeah.
And this is the first time we're gonna give all of our guests a mug.
Oh, nice.
This is the first time we're gonna give it on screen.
Oh, on screen? Oh, cool.
So
that's amazing.
you.
Thank you so much.
I have to watch you dump your coffee.
Oh, yeah. No, let's do it. I'll do it.
Don't do it.
Is it clean?
All right, last question. You go.
Just what's your favorite surgical instrument?
Ooh, wow.
I should be able to guess for you, but I don't.
Yeah, that's a really good question. What is my favorite? I mean, I'll tell you. So I love the Bonnie forcep. That's like kind of my go-to for kind of ab wall and big soft tissue cases. I think that what I like about it is that I've got a little bit bigger hands, and it's like not like a small forcep. It's like kind of a bigger forcep, and the business end of the Bonnie, like the teeth, they're pretty atraumatic, and so I kind of like that. I don't know. That's probably, if I had to say one instrument, that's probably it. Like,
I can see that.
There's one on all of my sets. I'm also a sucker for the Leahy clamp. I like using those to kind of tension the abdominal wall. So yeah, that's what I would say.
Awesome. That's great. Well, thank you again.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
This is great.
My pleasure.
Thank you.